In the ACARA curriculum, cells is a sub-element in Year 8 science. To implement learning about cells, I've designed two activities, one oral and one visual and written. On the right-hand side of my presentation, you can see visual and written. This contains a video called Introduction to Cells by Scoodle. Students are asked to construct a table in their workbook. The teacher will provide students with an educational video via Scoodle titled Introduction to Cells that familiarizes them with cell terminology and allows basic understanding of factors that affect cell growth. Throughout the video, a series of data is disclosed regarding the relationship between cell growth and sunlight. Pause the video and have students fill in their table. From the data, the students will construct a graph and analyze the correlation between cell growth and sunlight. Students will get into small groups to hypothesize reasoning to their relationship they have discovered. Finally, ask the students to research the scientific reasoning behind the correlation presented on the graph and have them submit a report containing their hypothesis, results, and discussion. The numeracy elements that this task satisfies is to recognize and use patterns and relationships. At a Year 8 level, a student should be able to recognize trends and interpret the data a graph is displaying. By constructing and interpreting graphs in this activity, the students have satisfied this element. The teacher activity is that the students were instructed by the teacher to interpret their own graph and provide a report submission. The assessment type is summative, as the report summarizes their learning and allows them to demonstrate their knowledge of the topic. In the literacy learning continuum, the text knowledge element has two sub-elements, used knowledge of text structures and used knowledge of text cohesion. The students have the opportunity to demonstrate their capability in achieving both the sub-elements by submitting a substantial report that fulfills all the requirements at a Year 8 level. In this lesson plan, the teacher activity requires the students to provide a report submission demonstrating their knowledge of the subject-specific text structure and using language to construct links with evidence coherently. This is a summative assessment type. The report allows the students to provide evidence that they understood the content being taught in the classroom. On the left-hand side of the concept map, you will see an oral, interactive and kinesthetic learning activity I have designed. In the activity, the students are required to create cell diagrams. Students are given the opportunity to select various materials to construct a cell diagram. Pipe cleaners, cellophane and card are all creative materials that are provided by the teacher. Students will return to their desks to begin the activity. The teacher then will present a digital game called Cell World via an interactive whiteboard or projector, which takes the students on a virtual tour through the cell whilst providing audio descriptions of the cell's organisms. Students will simultaneously create a scaled 3D diagram with labels containing the organelle's name and function to demonstrate their ability to meet the ACARA standard identifying structures within the cells and describing their function. The teacher will allow time for students to request the video to stop for inquiries. The teacher should instruct the students to form small groups of 3 to 5 members. Students will present their diagram and reveal one fact about the cell that intrigued them. Encouraging students to co-construct with peers reinforces their own knowledge whilst assimilating new information. The numeracy elements presented in this activity from the ACARA numeracy learning continuum is interpret maps and diagrams, as well as using spatial reasoning. At a Year 8 standard, students should be able to create and interpret 3D maps, models and diagrams. The activity describes caters to the ACARA numeracy learning continuum, as students are asked to construct their own cell diagram which demonstrates their ability to use spatial reasoning. For the teacher activity, students are to design and construct their own diagram whilst watching an educational video. This is a formative assessment type, as students are able to provide self-reflective feedback on their work in comparison to their goal, the virtual tour. In the activity, literacy elements from the literacy learning continuum presented by ACARA are evident. Use language to interact with others is a sub-element under composing text through speaking, writing and creating. In the continuum, it states that students at a Year 8 level should be capable of utilising peer discussions as an opportunity to resource new information and discover new perspectives. The activity plan requires the students to discuss their model in peer-assessed groups, which allows the students to demonstrate that they possess the literacy general capability of composing text through speaking. Another element is understanding learn area vocabulary. Through completing the activity, the students are introduced to a multitude of new subject-specific vocabulary that allows them to communicate about the topic effectively. Separating the students into small groups, discussing what they have learned and potentially to discover new key concepts, is the teaching activity in this learning assessment. This is a summative assessment as the students are reinforcing and concluding their learning at the end of an instructional task. The last heading on the concept map is subject-specific vocabulary. Mitochondria, hypothesis, nucleus, organelles, cytoplasm, and mitosis are all under cells vocabulary in the ACARA curriculum. Teaching vocabulary. There are 3 phases of teaching vocabulary: pre-active, interactive, and reflective. Teaching strategies such as somatic mapping and hands-on experience to scaffold language development can all be implemented in the interactive stage. Numeracy learning continuum in science. Numeracy key developmental concepts include interpreting and constructing graphs, recognizing patterns, using spatial reasoning, and evaluating statistics and trends. The literacy learning continuum in science includes key developmental concepts such as the ability to navigate through information, resource useful data, identify biases, and conceptualize new ideas.